Hey everyone, I'm Ian Douglas, the author of the website techinterview.guide. I do live streams every Sunday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern about topics relevant to interview preparation for the tech industry. I occasionally record longer Q&A sessions, and I've started to break those into smaller videos to post. And there'll be information at the end of this video about how to get in contact with me if you have additional questions. Let's get to it. The next question we have, what are some reasons a software architect would decide to go for some flavor of monolithic architecture for a system instead of a microservice architecture? It was a good question. A couple of years ago, well, several years ago, everybody was building big monolith apps. That's kind of how we did our development until probably midway between 2000 and 2010. And then somewhere towards 2010, everybody started jumping on the microservice bandwagon and like breaking everything into small, tiny pieces. There are pros and cons to that. The main benefit to going to a microservice architecture is that you can scale any portion of it that you need. And so if there's one portion of the application that's busier than others, you can scale just that part, either horizontally or vertically. When it comes to microservice architecture, though, if you need more capacity, you have to scale the entire application. And that can be harder to do depending on the application that you've built. I think that there's so many different ways of building an application these days. You've got some sort of front-end technology, maybe a back-end API of some kind, or the back-end is like, doing all the HTML and all the front-end and sending that back to the browser or whatever mobile device in some format to interpret and display. So I guess to really answer this question, like what are some reasons that you would go for, like you would specifically move towards a monolith app? As a senior dev in the industry, I would say I would probably reach for a monolith app as part of like a proof of concept. Like I want to, I've got this project in mind. I'm just going to like throw together this monolith app just to see, whether this project sort of has teeth, as we would say. Is this going to catch on? Is this going to, attract some users? Is that, a reasonable thing? Because I can put together a monolith app with a database and do a little bit of front end just to kind of get a sense of, would people even use this kind of thing? If so, then I'm going to go back to the drawing board and I'll plan it out, maybe in microservice architecture, depending on why I would want or need a microservice sort of architecture scheme for that. Like, is there a reason why I'm moving towards a microservice architecture? So, I already talked about how like between 2005, 2010, we saw a lot of people migrate to microservices, and that's still pretty common, but it can be challenging to have a microservice only kind of application because now you've got all these pieces and they're all scattered all over the place. And it can be much harder to sort of get all these pieces up and running to know that your application's actually working. You end up doing, either a lot of Docker containers or you're spinning up all these other services on all these different port numbers on your development machine. And then, making sure that, I forgot to spin up this one thing. And so none of it works. And how do you start everything up so that you can test it properly? And that's the other benefit to a monolith app is you've generally got like one application, you spin that up and you're good to go and everything, you can run your tests or do user-based testing where you're kind of clicking around your own application. But when it comes to a production level app, there can be a lot more benefits doing smaller sorts of applications. You can deploy them each individually. So if you need to make an improvement or a security fix or a bug fix, you don't have to deploy everything in your system, or you don't have to take the entire system offline just to upgrade part of it. Although it depends on your microservice architecture too. If you've got a really key component that needs upgrading, it's going to take everything offline anyway. And so I would say I can't really think of a good single strong use case where you would want to build a monolith app instead of a microservice app for like a long-term production ready kind of thing. You could, but scalability is going to be an issue. And that's why we came up with kind of the microservice and the service-oriented architecture design pattern of how do we break this into smaller parts so that we can scale only the bottlenecked parts without having to scale the entire thing. So I would say for proof of concept, it would be a good idea. But then if you're going to scale it and put it in production for real, then you would probably not do a monolith app. Hey, thanks for watching. I love helping people out with interview prep, and I hope this video helped you in some way. If you found this Q&A useful, please consider subscribing. You can follow me on Twitch as well for the live stream twice a week. Check out techinterview.guide/streaming for more information. I also have a daily email series that you can subscribe to on the website. There are never any ads, and when you finish the series, I scrub your information out of my database permanently. Finally, if you have a question that you'd like answered on the stream, you can find my contact info on techinterview.guide. I prefer LinkedIn or email. If you leave your question in a YouTube comment, it might take me longer to find it, but I'll see you next time.